New U.S. government policy that could terminate international students' legal status. Trump offers automakers some relief on his 25% tariffs. And locally, the Audit Commission calls for enhanced oversight of street cleaning services. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. The U.S. Immigration Department has reportedly introduced a new policy that could terminate the legal status of international students. Over the 100 days since U.S. President Donald Trump took office, 4,000 international students have had their visas revoked. Jackie Lin with more.
Over the past month, some international students around the U.S. have learned their records and status were removed from a student database maintained by Immigration and Customs Enforcement with little explanation from authorities. Some reportedly abandoned their studies to return home. The U.S. federal officials revealed that a new policy is on the way, setting out guidance on a range of reasons student status can be cancelled, including the revocation of the visas they used to enter the U.S. The Associated Press cited an immigration lawyer that the new guidelines vastly expand the authority of the Immigration and Customs Enforcement beyond the previous policy. In the past, visa revocation does not mean the students would lose their legal status. Students could still stay in the U.S. to finish their studies. They simply would not be able to re-enter if they left the country. Bloomberg reported that under the new policy, immigration authorities will have the power to cancel student records for reasons including having their visa revoked, failure to report changes of employment or student status. In a court hearing on Tuesday, Department of Homeland Security officials said authorities had identified about 6,400 students who had committed crimes through an FBI-run database. The New York Times quoted State Department officials that the Trump administration has revoked the visas of 4,000 international students over his 100 days in office. 90% of them hold serious criminal records, including arson and human trafficking. U.S. universities have warned international students planning to go abroad during the summer vacation that they may not be able to re-enter the U.S. even when they hold a valid visa. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
U.S. President Donald Trump has issued an executive order to relax some of his tariffs on foreign cars and auto parts to offset pressure on domestic manufacturers. Meanwhile, during a White House briefing, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent predicted China could lose 10 million jobs quickly due to U.S. tariffs. However, he stressed trade deals with India, Japan, and South Korea could be in the pipeline. Daniel Rowell tells us more.
Speaking at a rally in Michigan, U.S. President Donald Trump told the crowd he issued an executive order earlier on Tuesday, relaxing some of his tariffs on foreign cars and auto parts to give domestic car makers more time to shift production back to America.
I've already proudly imposed a 25% tariff on all foreign automobiles, any foreign car, like they do tariff. This is going to create more jobs in this state and this country. And to help these automakers bring their factories home as rapidly as possible, I've just signed an executive order to give partial tariff rebates to any company that assembles its cars right here in the U.S. In other words, if they can't make it in time because they have to do it here, otherwise they have it, I'm giving them a little bit of a break, right? They took in parts from all over the world. I don't want that. I want them to make their parts here.
The amended order provides a rebate for 1 year of 3.75% relative to the sales prices of domestically assembled vehicles. That figure was reached by putting the 25% import tax on parts that make up 15% of a vehicle's sales price. For the second year, the rebate would equal 2.5% of a vehicle's sales price, as it would apply to a smaller share of the vehicle's parts. Auto industry groups have warned Trump's tariffs would raise prices on cars and could trigger layoffs and bankruptcy. Meanwhile, during a White House briefing, U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent predicted China could lose 10 million jobs quickly due to U.S. tariffs.
I've seen some very large numbers over the past few days that show if these numbers stay on, Chinese could lose 10 million jobs very quickly. And even if there is a drop in the tariffs, that they could lose 5 million jobs. So remember that we are the deficit country. They sell almost 5 times more goods to us than we sell to them. So the onus will be on them to take off these tariffs. They're unsustainable for them.
However, Besant also said Asian countries have been the most forthcoming on making progress towards trade deals. Besant outlined he sees the contours of a deal with South Korea and that he has had substantial talks with Japan. The US Treasury Secretary stressed the deal is very close with India's government.
I think that we are very close on India. And in India, just a little inside baseball, India, in a funny way, is easier to negotiate with than many other countries because they have very high tariffs and lots of tariffs. So a country like India, which has the posted and ready tariffs, it's much easier to negotiate with them.
Dan Orell, TVB News.
The U.S. Senate has confirmed former Senator David Purdue as ambassador to China. The Republican who served one term as a U.S. Senator from Georgia was confirmed 67-29 with some Democratic support. At Purdue's confirmation hearing this month, the former business executive called the U.S. relationship with China the most consequential diplomatic challenge of the 21st century. He said our approach to China should be nuanced, nonpartisan, and strategic. President Trump, who selected Purdue in December, slapped 145% tariffs on Chinese goods this month. Beijing retaliated by charging 125% tariffs on U.S. products with no sign for any immediate climb down. Foreign Minister Wang Yi lashed out at U.S. tariff policy at the latest gathering of top diplomats from BRICS members. He called for a joint effort to oppose all forms of protectionism and firmly uphold multilateral trade rules. Danny Zhou has the story.
The second and final day of the BRICS foreign ministers' meeting in Rio de Janeiro. In an expanded format, the event was attended by 11 member states and representatives of BRICS partner countries. In a news conference held after the meeting, Brazilian Minister of Foreign Affairs Mauro Vieira affirmed the need to strengthen multilateralism and global South cooperation as tools to address contemporary challenges, stating it is not in the interest of BRICS members to live in a fractured world. A key topic of the meeting was how to respond to what the Trump administration calls reciprocal tariffs. In his push for joint opposition against hegemonism, Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the greater BRICS should continue to safeguard the multilateral trading system and build a more just and equitable global governance system. Wang has warned nations not to succumb to Washington's tariff threats. He stated, "People have seen the law of the jungle of the survival of the fittest has appeared. Coercion and bullying no longer need to be disguised, and the foundation for the development of international relations is under continuous threat." He emphasized China's response to the trade war is firm and clear, saying, "If you insist on fighting, we will fight till the end, and any talks must be based on equality and respect." The two-day BRICS meeting unexpectedly concluded without a joint declaration. Sources say Egypt and Ethiopia, two new additions to the bloc, opposed parts of a plan to put forward South Africa as a preferred BRICS candidate for a reformed United Nations Security Council. Host nation Brazil issued a chair statement to leave path open for talks for a statement ahead. In the document, foreign ministers condemned attempts to unilaterally undermine the multilateral trading system and raised concerns about the indiscriminate imposition of reciprocal tariffs and non-tariff measures without mentioning the US by name. They also forged agreement on enhancing use of local currencies in trade and financial settlements between BRICS countries and their trade partners. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
In the Audit Commission's latest report, the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department has been urged to step up its scrutiny of street cleaning services by contractors. The report also found that thousands of window inspection orders have gone unheeded for years. Jackie Lin with more.
As of last September, the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department had 42 three-year street cleaning contracts worth $7.62 billion. They involve over 10,000 outsourced workers, accounting for 82% of the overall service. Contractors are required to submit daily attendance records to the department. But when the Audit Commission visited 3 out of 19 regional environmental hygiene offices, it found that some contractors failed to submit accurate records and conduct quality checks at least twice a week. The Shenzhou Po and Yunlong offices did not dispatch street washing vehicles according to schedule, sometimes missing more than half of the plant services. The report noted internally hired FEHD sanitation staff also showed a higher absentee rate compared with outsourced workers. The report found surveillance cameras detected 49 locations with littering issues, but 80% of these cases were not included in the department's reports. 8 of these locations saw 1,170 instances of littering over 3 months. Meanwhile, 37 illegal dumping hotspots have been flagged as long as 7 years ago. Still, no surveillance cameras are installed at 23 of these locations. In the Audit Commission's report targeting the Buildings Department's mandatory window inspection program, the watchdog found that over 10,000 inspection orders had not been complied with for more than 3 years, the longest delay being 12 years. From 2017 to 2024, while nearly 660,000 mandatory window inspection notices were complied with, about 27,000 remained unheeded. The non-compliance rate in common areas reached 27%, significantly higher than the 4% for other units. Over 43% of overdue inspection orders have been ignored for more than 3 years. Over 7 years, the Buildings Department recorded 455 window falling incidents. 295 cases unfolded in buildings not designated as high risk. The audit criticized the Buildings Department for failing to issue warning letters within the stipulated 1-month time frame and delaying the referral of non-compliance cases to fast-track prosecution. With that, it has urged the department to step up efforts. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
Still ahead, the Shenzhou 19 crew returns to Earth. Celebrations in Ho Chi Minh City marking 50 years since the end of the Vietnam War. And Hong Kong set to see some 20 more pet parks over the next 3 years. Welcome back. The 3 Shenzhou 19 astronauts are finally home after a 6-month journey in space. Their spaceship successfully touched down at the Dongfang landing site in Inner Mongolia around midday, despite an earlier delay caused by poor weather. Danny Zhou tells us more.
The orbital and return capsules of Shenzhou 19 undocked from China's Tiangong space station in the wee hours of today. 8 hours later, the spaceship's return capsule separated from the orbital capsule and headed back to Earth from a height of 390 kilometers. The astronauts of the recently launched Shenzhou 20 spacecraft watched the live-streamed event in the space station. There was an outage of communication with the ground during the capsule's re-entry into Earth's atmosphere. Footage from state media showed the moment when the return capsule's main parachute opened up. At about 1:08 p.m., Shenzhou 19's 3-person crew, Cai Xuzhe, Song Lingdong, and Wang Haoze, touched down at the landing site in China's Gobi Desert, where support teams were on standby. Medical experts conducted initial health checks, and authorities say all 3 astronauts are in good condition. 40 minutes later, the trio were helped out from the capsule one by one. Tai, the mission commander, said the crew made a concerted effort to accomplish this highly anticipated task, and they would keep up the high morale to make new contributions to the country's aerospace development. The 2 young astronauts, Song and Wang, elaborated on their exhilaration and happiness on completing their first flight. They said they took pride in themselves for successfully translating the researchers' hard work into various scientific and technological results over the past 180-plus days, with a pledge to take on more challenging tasks in the future. The trio were later loaded onto vehicles for a thorough physical examination. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
In other news, Vietnam is celebrating 50 years since the end of the war with America. The country was reunified on April 30th, 1975. Festivities culminated in a military parade in Ho Chi Minh City. Thousands camped overnight to be part of these celebrations, which featured a float with a huge lac bird, the emblem of Vietnam, and another with a portrait of revolutionary leader Ho Chi Minh. The communist-run North seized the city, then named Saigon, from the U.S.-backed South. The last American helicopters left their embassy at 7:53 a.m. 50 years ago today. Reflecting on the historic day, Vietnam's Communist Party chief To Lam called it a victory of faith and for justice over tyranny, adding Vietnam will remain united forever. Washington was represented at the parade today, having restored relations with Vietnam 30 years ago, although it's currently threatening them with huge trade tariffs. Back locally, a man had his leg amputated after receiving acupuncture treatment at 2 Chinese medicine clinics on Hong Kong Island. The Center for Health Protection suspects someone involved in the treatment did not strictly follow infection control procedures during the process. Celine Chan has more.
This Chinese medicine clinic in Shenzhou was visited by the man whose leg was amputated due to a group A streptococcus infection, better known as flesh-eating disease. The clinic remains closed following the incident, and no notice was posted outside the clinic. The man also visited another clinic located at a commercial building in Causeway Bay. It is also closed. Some locals expressed concern over the incident. This woman said she would not receive acupuncture treatment for now and would avoid visiting clinics that are not famous. But some others said they are unbothered by the incident. The Center for Health Protection said samples obtained from the affected patient tested positive for group A streptococcus. According to the CHP, flesh-eating infection can be caused by different types of bacteria, and group A streptococcus is considered the most common cause of it. The bacteria that cause the infection most commonly enter the body through wounds in the skin, such as cuts, scrapes, burns, or surgical wounds. Flesh-eating infection is a type of necrotizing fasciitis which could be caused by eating raw or undercooked seafood or exposure to seawater through an existing open wound. Lawmaker Chow Eng-kwong, who's also the chairperson of the Hong Kong Registered Chinese Medicine Practitioners Association, said the city has a total of over 8,000 registered traditional Chinese medicine practitioners who are eligible to perform acupuncture procedures. He shared that acupuncture is a compulsory course in registered Chinese medicine practitioners' undergraduate curriculum. He emphasized that there is a set of guidelines for registered Chinese medicine practitioners and physical therapists, the only ones eligible to carry out acupuncture operations, to follow. Chen believes the current case of infection is an isolated incident and it wouldn't affect the overall image of Chinese medicine practitioners. Celine Chan, TVB News.
And some good news for pet owners. The Leisure and Cultural Services Department is planning to set up more than 20 pet parks or pet gardens in Hong Kong over the next 3 years. Jackie Lin has more.
This pet garden in Tung Chung North Park boasts lawns, recreational facilities, and fecal collection boxes. This citizen said many people in Hong Kong are dog owners, and many places around the world allow pets to board public transport. So she hopes Hong Kong can introduce more pet-friendly policies. Some hope there will be certain limits in place.
Shopping malls are okay if only they are mouthed and leashed. Otherwise, it's not okay as far as I'm concerned, because they can go into a shop and disrupt the shop's business, so it's not good.
There are currently 55 pet gardens and 180 inclusive parks for pets in Hong Kong. Most span an area of more than 400 square meters. Secretary for Culture, Sports and Tourism Rosanna Law revealed the government is planning to open up 20 more pet parks across various districts over the next 3 years. But the authorities won't consider adding pet-friendly spaces in facilities such as public beaches, water sports centers and holiday camps for now. Law said that's because pets' defecation on beaches will be harder to handle. When asked whether the Housing Bureau would reconsider allowing public rental housing tenants to apply to keep a dog, Secretary for Housing Winnie Ho said there's no intention of relaxing the existing policy. Jackie Lin, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the holiday tomorrow.